strike. The first is remuneration. Health workers complain of poor pay, which is often delayed. In some counties, for example, health workers claim that they are yet to receive their salaries for the month of July. The health workers also want the issue of allowances addressed. Counties such as Narok, Kajiado, Makueni, Kakamega, Kisumu, Machakos reportedly revised terms of service for doctors and slashed allowances. The workers also say that despite paying 2,000 shillings to the National Hospital Insurance Fund every month, they cannot afford the very services they provide. The issue of promotions has also reared its head once again, with health workers complaining that many deserving workers have not been promoted. Deductions are also a bone of contention, with health workers complaining that funds deducted from their salaries are often remitted to their circles, the NHIF, NSSF and their banks late. The strike that has affected 8 counties so far has had a massive impact on the population served by the public health facilities. Nyeri County, for instance, has a population of over 800,000 people who are served by 103 public health facilities. However, the neighboring counties have felt the impact of the strike, as the Nyeri Provincial General Hospital serves them as well. Uasin Gishu, another county that is also affected, has 100 public health facilities and a population of over 1 million people, the majority of whom seek services in the public health facilities. So there are some of the issues that the nurses and doctors want to address. And I'll now hand you over to Mutegi Njau, who will introduce you to his panel for this morning. But a quick reminder, want to get in touch with us, 22422 is the SMS line for your comments, questions, suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. For now, Mutegi.
Good morning, Karigo. With me here is Dr. Omar Oluga, the Secretary General of KMPDU, which stands for?
It's KMPDU is Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union.
And then we have Mr. Seth Panyanko, yeah. Who is the Secretary General of Kenya National Union of Nurses.
Yeah.
So we have doctors and nurses here.
Yeah.
We are expecting to get a Dr. Andrew Mulwa, who was going to represent the Council of Governors, but I think he has grown cold feet because he has gone Taja. We can't get him. Anyway, we'll do without him. Now, gentlemen, what is the matter? Many hospitals are closed. Many nurses are on strike. Some doctors are not on strike. Are you not reading on the same page?
We are reading on the same page. Let me start by stating that there have been quite a number of issues with healthcare. Some from previous. As a fact, since independence, we have always had issues with our healthcare. One of the founding fathers of this nation stated that we must fight disease, ignorance and poverty. And since then, we haven't fought disease well enough because of challenges. So fighting disease is not as equivalent to eliminating disease, because we are fighting disease. There are diseases that are preventable, that people shouldn't die from. So, but from devolution, there's been quite a number of issues. I think this is not the first time Seth and I and even the doctors are stating that there should have been structures before we devolved, and most healthcare workers were dumped into counties. They were dumped into counties.
Dumped or posted?
Dumped. They were dumped. They were dumped because you see the way you collect garbage in the streets and you go and throw them somewhere in Dandora. Yes. That's actually what happened, because there were no basically structures or policy on how they will be handled, how the human resources aspect will be handled. In fact, you have stated the issues quite clearly. You have enumerated the issues quite very clearly concerning issues of salaries, allowances, the deductions, the promotions that is now the bone of contention in many counties, and many more. So these structures were not put in place, and we seemed to have been in a hurry as a country. The counties were in a hurry to get this so-called health function, which even according to this constitution, we did not actually follow the due process of putting structures, and the transition authority did not bring all stakeholders to ensure that this process is smooth. That has happened anyway, so it is already spilt water. What we need to do right now is to look at how are we going to solve the problems of Kenyans, because as you clearly note, there are quite a number of patients who are suffering who do not know and they do not care whether it's the national government or it's whether the county governments. All they want are services. And when my mother or my grandmother goes to hospital in Yala, or when the patient in Garissa goes to hospital, they find it closed. They do not know where to go. They do not know who to blame. And as I say, they actually do not care. They just simply want services. And that makes it an emergency that we need to come together. This fighting that is between the counties and the national government and blame game, it is not only unnecessary, I think it is stupid. Because you can't put people's lives at risk simply because you are unable to put structures which are very clear. We have stated from the doctors' union
who
that
is to blame? I don't know. When you say structures,
who is to blame is the counties.
I think I can intervene there. The person to blame in terms of the worst facing health sector today is Isaac Ruto, together with the transition authority. These are the people who ensured that health sector was first devolved unconstitutionally and procedurally and illegally, without looking at, first of all, we have not even defined, as we are sitting here, Muteki, we are still working on a health bill, which is going to define which facility belongs to the national government, which one belongs to the county government. But because of the political pressure that was emanating from the Council of Governors with their political impunity and patronage, wanting to control health sector so that they look they are very powerful, they actually held hostage our president. We were in State House and the president said, why can't you leave the health sector the way it is with me? We put the laws in place, we put the structures in place, we put systems in place, we put regulations so that we know which one is going, we know how a health worker who is in Wajir is going to be paid salary, which should be uniform like the one who's being paid in Kakamega, so that we don't have inequalities which may bring problems in some counties, and where we'll have some health workers wanting to move from county A to county B because county B is paying more than county A, but they will hear none of that. Isaac Ruto will hear none of that. We were in State House and the president bleated with them, but they did not want to hear. And then the president said, okay, take everything you want on a political ground, not actually looking at the welfare of the Kenyan people. Look today what's happening. Everyone is talking about sugar. No one is talking about health sector. In fact, the opposition is the most weakest arm of government in this country that I've ever seen. They don't talk about health issues. They always talk about sugar because they want to get votes. Health, even if we can't strike in the whole country, you will never see anybody taking health workers seriously. So the problem is our political system. They have politicized the health system. We are being used like guinea pigs, where they are testing how county government can work. But we are saying as health workers, we will not sacrifice our rights to fight for our rights. Look at Nandi County today. They have not paid salary for July. They have not paid for August. And there's no hope that they are going to pay.
Why?
Because the MCA went home, their budget was rejected by the Commission of Revenue Allocation, and they took recess of 2 months. People are on the street, they have not earned. How do you expect me to work on an empty stomach?
But I'm assuming that in Nandi, it is not only the health workers that are affected, it's every worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is it that only... The question I had asked before, are the doctors also on strike? Or is it...
In the Nandi, yes, the doctors are also on strike. As I've mentioned, it's all healthcare workers.
What about Nyeri?
Yeah, as well in Nyeri. It's all healthcare workers that are affected.
The reality.
And let me state it quite clearly that every single worker in those hospitals, including the sweepers, are affected. And what we see is just there's a lot of collaboration, and therefore there's a lot of like you may get a nurse as the leader, or in some places you get a doctor as the leader, but all healthcare workers are affected. And by the way, it is also in the counties that are quiet. There are many counties that are having issues. If you look at the issues of salaries, there are counties that have not paid July salaries. Nandi is one of them. There are others like Nyeri, Nairobi just paid the other day. Siaya paid yesterday. So you look
July salaries were paid yesterday in Siaya.
Yes.
Reason?
We don't know, but you know, there's this bickering, and they keep,
because we are told
they keep complaining that they do not have money, and yet the other day the CS for Treasury said that they have money. So they also do not understand why the counties are not paying, but the counties keep saying we do not have money. The bottom line is that healthcare workers, number one, they earn so little salary. In fact, you're asking, why is it that it's the healthcare workers? Healthcare workers earn so meager that they can't even pay rent and afford food. So, you know, 1 week without a salary, the landlord is already knocking on your door. You need to buy food for your children. You can't keep working. And what goes on here, probably the counties or the government should give us cards that we can show our landlords that, oh, I'm a healthcare worker, my rent is going to delay. Otherwise, and the same people in government, the same governors, are actually the tenants. I mean, the landlords. So healthcare workers, they keep struggling. They can't afford a living. They can't afford healthcare. They can't afford food for their children. So even just a day of delaying salary, and the Employment Act is very clear on this one. The salaried employees must be paid within 30 days of work. So if your salary is not coming, so the government is already floating the law.
My question like that I asked about Nandi. Even Nyeri, where they have closed a hospital, they are not able to pay only health workers, or other workers are being paid.
You see, what is happening here is that
because I don't hear.
It is not only health workers who are on strike. The truth is that within the public sector, other than teachers, can you delay a salary for teacher even for 5 days? You cannot. The health sector, we only have 2 unions which are in the public service, apart from the teachers. The only 2 unions which are active, which are actually representing and articulating the interests of the members, is the doctors' union and the nurses' union. The other unions are dead. That's why you're seeing civil servants, when we go on strike, we go for everybody. When we went to Mombasa the other day on strike, local government workers were saying, thank you, are helping us to get our salary. No one is here for us. So those unions are dead. That's why you cannot say them. But when you see on the where we have tried to bring them, like in Trans Nzoia, we brought them on board. You saw when I was saying that civil servants union is here, local government workers union is here. We just said, come, because your people are also suffering. Everybody is suffering. And when we go on strike, we are being supported by all workers, all public servants, literally. It's not actually the issue of doctors alone. And you saw somebody was on TV and saying that, oh, doctors and nurses, why are they going on strike and everybody has not been paid? We don't want to hear those kind of nonsense, because when you are a public servant, for example, and you don't pay your rent, and you have been paid salary, and your landlord comes to the hospital in the morning and has evicted you and has brought your things at the hospital, you will be dismissed on pecuniary embarrassment for embarrassing your employer. That's the policy of the government. Now, in the situation where government has not paid you, like in Nandi, now 2 months, you have not been paid salary, your landlord has locked you out. You go and sack the government. The only weapon we have as workers is to go for an industrial action. And these are right. You have heard that Dagaria said that we were dumped to the governors. That's what the national government did. Because the reality is that health sector is not a fully devolved function the way you hear other people want to purport. You hear a politician, you hear governors who have actually, who are reigning in political impunity, coming to television, national television like this one, and saying health is a fully devolved function. And they cannot tell you why Kenyatta is not under Nairobi. They cannot tell you why Mathare is not under Nairobi County. They cannot tell you why Spinal Hospital is not under Nairobi Hospital. They can't tell you why Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital is not under Uasin Gishu. What we are trying to say is that everybody does not want to deal with health. National referral system begins from level 2, from a dispensary, all the way to Kenyatta National Hospital. Those are the function of the national government.
Exactly.
And the national government cannot run away from their responsibility. Governors has no mandate even struggling with level 5, level 2, level 3, level 4. They are cheating themselves. Look at it, Muteki. Our constitution says counties will be given a minimum of 15% of the national budget. Abuja declaration says state members who are the signatories to Abuja declaration will allocate 15% for the department of health.
Yeah.
So if governors want actually to manage health, then they can't touch on anything else, because the budget which they are given, which is supposed to be 15% as per our constitution, is only supposed to manage health.
And by the way, looking at that budget, this year, the total healthcare budget from the counties to the national government is 2.8%. 2.8% of the total national budget. It's a shame, and it's the lowest any country has ever allocated for health. 2 years ago it was 6.7, it moved to 5.7, now we are at 2.8%. It's no wonder that all these problems are happening, and unfortunately, as he states it quite clearly, there's a lot of politics between the governors, and they want to control these things, and the people are suffering. Right now we have about 420,000 Kenyans who are dying every single year because of preventable deaths. We now have cholera coming back, and yet we are seeing politicians who actually do not care. Every single Kenyan in this country is at risk actually of now dying of devolution, because if even yourself, you are in some remote place and God forbid anything happened, you will need that public hospital. And the chances that you will find that public hospital closed because either salaries have not been paid or doctors and nurses and other healthcare workers have not been promoted is very high. And the chances that you will not get services are very high. And that is very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that we are talking about strikes, because strikes affect people. If we did statistics of the number of people who just suffer because the counties and the national government are not meeting the employment obligations, it would be just huge.
Let's go to that question of promotions and transfers and salaries in different counties. If I'm a doctor, just from University of Nairobi, and the posted to Voi, and they're working in Taita Taveta, and another one posted, another one posted in Shinigishu, would you be getting some salary?
Right now, no. And the worst part of it is that some of those payments are based on what your last name is. It's based on the tribe sometimes. And if you go to other counties, you find a very junior doctor who just left the university is in a higher job group, yeah, than a senior doctor who has even worked there for 10 years. Yeah, those things are happening now. And it's very unfortunate. Actually, you find there are nurses who are discriminated upon because of their names or their tribes, yeah. And you also find in some places a nurse that is actually earning more than everyone, and that is not a big problem depending on whether there's administration or what. But if you're working in the hospital, it happens right now, and those structures are what we were actually talking about. But if you look at doctor to doctor, nurse to nurse, in the scheme of service for nurses, in the scheme of service for doctors, those are being flouted right now.
Who is supposed to manage that?
You see,
the bill that has not come?
You see, Muteki, we have...
There are schemes of services.
Every county has a different scheme of service.
They do not have any scheme of service, and that's why there's no uniform practice, and those are the structures that we are talking about. And by the way, these workers are healthcare workers. These workers are seconded workers. He will explain to you that secondment means that you retain the obligations with your employer, and our employer is the Public Service Commission. These are seconded workers. They were basically simply lent to the counties, although it happened in a, like they were thrown there like chicken, but their employment contracts have not changed. The contracts they signed still states that it is the Public Service Commission for which they work for.
Muteki, you've asked a very crucial question.
Yes.
I like talking about the law, and people say I should not be talking about the law so much because people may not understand that the discussion may not be sweet, but that's where we are. That's where we have gone wrong. First, you have asked about standards.
Yeah.
When you look at the fourth schedule, part 1, that is clause 13, it says the responsibility of setting labor standards is left with the national government.
Yes.
When you look at Article 235, it talks about the Assembly, the National Assembly shall enact an Act of Parliament which will set norms and standards on how government shall establish its public service. As we are talking today, that Act of Parliament, which was contemplated in Article 235, has not been enacted. In fact, anyone can go to court and challenge the employment which is taking place in the counties, because they're employing without norms and standards set by the National Assembly. In fact, the entire employment going on in the counties is unconstitutional. But no one wants to, in Kenya, everything has become political. That is why health is no longer essential. It's only essential when you go on strike. But when the constitution was being made and the Health Service Commission was being removed from our constitution in Naivasha, who thought that health was essential? Because we didn't have these two unions. We could not fight for our members. We are busy serving our members. We are busy attending to patients. And people are busy mutilating the rights of the health workers. Now today, when we are not on strike, no one wants to say, let us have a national dialogue. Let us bring all health workers together, all stakeholders together. Let us go back and find where the rain started beating us. The moment Kinuthia Omwangi sat there and via a legal notice dismantled the national referral system, took everything to the counties, and the national government says, and the CS at that time was Machara, said, take these people to the counties, we are tired with them. And they said in Mombasa in a forum that let them go to the counties so that the counties can finish them. That's where they went wrong. They forgot the interests of their voters, who are the Kenyan people, the poor people who cannot afford private, highly expensive private hospitals, who depend literally on public healthcare system. And this is where we have gone wrong as Kenyan. We have politicized completely everything. They don't want to listen. They don't want to know about the constitution. For example, Kinuthia Omwangi tells you that I devolved health function using a legal notice. Sixth schedule of the Constitution of Kenya says every function shall be transferred by an act of parliament.
Yes.
So when you ask what act of parliament actually transferred health as a function, you don't have it. When we talk about national referral health facilities, when you look at the act which is being developed today in parliament, you find they have put clause like national referral hospital. They have already insinuated that they can amend the constitution of the people of Kenya through an act of parliament. The constitution talks of national referral health facilities, but when you look at the health bill 2015, it's talking of national referral hospitals. That's amending of the constitution. The reason why the drafters of the constitution put national referral health facilities is that the national referral system has some health institutions which are not hospitals, and those institutions constitute the national referral system. That's why they say facilities.
That's like,
for example, a dispensary. A dispensary is not a hospital, and yet it's a referral facility. That's why we say national referral health facilities. But politically, because county governors were saying, if we don't have health, then we have nothing to manage. They took health politically, and they are trying to manage politically. And my opinion is that health is being colonized. Health workers are being colonized by the governors. The national government has abdicated its mandate to manage the national referral system. And we are saying as health workers, we have no option but to fight for our rights. We must fight to liberate health workers. We must fight to restore the national referral system. That one we shall not say. I'm telling you,
what does that mean?
They have not seen it yet.
What does that mean?
They have not seen it yet. We are planning to be having...
Are you saying that health will not be devolved?
Health was not... It must follow the constitution. What I'm telling you is the national referral healthcare system was not dismantled by this constitution. And when you see politicians and governors try to paint, and you see somebody sit there and tells you health is a fully devolved function, that's a person who doesn't know anything. Because it is not. When you look at the fourth schedule, we have the county health services, which were there in the old constitution.
What is talking about basically in the national health referral system from level 2 to level 6, it then means that all this system from the dispensary and how a patient moves from the dispensary to the health center to level 3 and to Kenyatta is a function of the national government. But be it as he has stated it,
but dispensaries are the counties.
There were hospitals like Pumwani that were under counties, and Pumwani is level 4. They were under counties. They were under the municipals even when the national referral system existed. So what we are talking about here is to establish that you must have a health services commission, a national health services commission. And people could be, they could debate on and off about whether you want a word commission or not commission. But what Kenyans and what healthcare workers want are solutions. So if anyone has a different opinion, if people think that this is wanting too much, then let them solve the problems. It is not the fact that we want this National Health Services Commission that there are strikes. There are strikes because the healthcare workers are pushed to the wall, because there's filth all over in their faces, because you can't be paid your salary. Because right now I have pay slips here of doctors in quite a number of counties that their salaries have been slashed by half.
Reason?
No reason given.
They wake up one day.
They wake up. Yes.
They say they will not pay doctors and practical allowance.
Yeah.
They wake up and say they will not pay health workers extraneous allowance. They want to do what they want to do. The new health workers they are employing, they are putting them on terms which are not there, because there is no law, as I have told you, which has set norms and standards. The function of setting labor standards is a function of the national government. But you see, these systems have not been operationalized. There is no law which has been stated that when you talk about salary, salary is supposed to be a standard. across the country.
Exactly.
As opposed to say, these are minimum a nurse can earn across the country. These are minimum that a doctor can earn. That is a national standard. We do not have a body that has been created to ensure that there are national standard in terms of employment and labor relations issues. They are not there. Every county wants to do their own things.
Now, you know what, you're talking like someone in the mass. Who are you talking to? In these matters, who in government are you talking to?
For us, and he'll tell you, we have actually engaged every single stakeholder. We have brought in Transition Authority, we have brought in the Council of Governors. Personally, I've had quite a number of engagement with them as a union. We have even hosted them for meetings. We've always been talking to them. We've talked to the Ministry of Health. He told you that in December of 2013, they even met the President. So these issues are not new issues. It's just that we take long as a country to listen, and we even take longer to provide solutions, even when our people are dying, even when we're having 200 people dying of cholera.
In this whole fiasco,
yes.
Where is the Director of Medical Services and the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Permanent Secretary or Principal Secretary? What are they saying and what are they doing?
Well, what you see, the Minister of Health should have been really in the forefront to give those standards that he's talking about. But you have seen when Busia children were paralyzed, where were they taken? Nairobi Hospital. Is Nairobi Hospital a government facility?
I don't know. They were not ashamed to take them there.
In fact, they should be ashamed to take them there.
They should have been ashamed to take them there.
Exactly. Yes. And you have seen also when the first ladies were here on the cancer conference, that was very well organized. Where were they taken for a tour? They were taken to the Aga Khan. And we have seen also, you know, these people just presiding over functions, opening some cancer centers that are private. And we saw them the other day. Now they want people to be treated through an SMS. So, you know, you can see the trend. And you don't need to be very smart to really deduce a verdict from that. You can see the trend that the same ministry is ashamed of its own facilities. Why couldn't they take the first ladies to Kenyatta National Hospital? Kenyatta National Hospital remains the place where there are many cancer patients who can't afford, who rely on those radiotherapy, who rely on those doctors that are not paid, not even a single cent. But what happens is that the first ladies are taken to Aga Khan, which is not government facility. So that answers your question of where is the Ministry of Health and the people who are there.
There was a few weeks ago a story which was alarming to me and many Kenyans, that some counties rejected doctors. It was true. Can you explain to Wananchi what that means and why? What that means is that there were doctors who had basically finished their probation, which is like internship, 1 year mandatory professional internship, and then they are now supposed to join the service on permanent basis. So what happened is that these doctors, and it's the Council of Governors that agreed that let these doctors be distributed according to the numbers that we have. So when these doctors were posted, there was a committee that was formed. By the way, that process never existed. So we as a union, that's part of the engagement we've had. We've almost been trying to solve every single problem that is being created by either the Council of Governors or the Ministry of Health and all of this. And we try to bring all stakeholders together because we are interested in solutions, and we are interested in the Kenyan people having a doctor at every facility to make sure that they are treated. Now what happened is that when these doctors were posted, some sent to Tharaka Nithi, like 14 or 22 sent to Tharaka Nithi, 14 sent to Siaya. The county said, no, we don't want these doctors. And they cited... Which means, yeah, they have enough doctors.
They don't have doctors. Lamu doesn't have doctors.
So why would Lamu want to refuse a doctor?
Is it because it's just crazy. In fact,
if I help my colleague, the first person to reject doctors and health workers from his county was the first chairman of the Council of Governors.
One Isaac Ruto.
One Isaac Ruto.
Yes.
And the reason
he chased away health workers who are not from his county. A doctor who had actually made Longisa District Hospital to be what it is today because he was a Mkamba. He chased him. Health workers were chased from that county because they do not belong to that county, and he brought his relatives. His brother was made the medical officer in charge, and when you go to that county today, it doesn't have doctors. And it's one of the counties where health workers...
I don't understand this because it looks to me very illogical. Illogical in the sense that if you are like I'm from Tharaka-Nithi, the one you mean.
Yes.
And I've got TB. Must I be treated by a person from Tharaka-Nithi?
In fact,
even if it does not do anything about TB,
you have
it's not logical. So why would that happen?
Let me give you an example. Recently, last week, we had a colleague who got an accident in Migori, and he works in Kisii. He was taken to Migori Level 5 hospital, and when he arrived there, he was told that you don't belong to Migori, you cannot be treated here. He went to another facility, he was again told you cannot be treated here. In fact, my branch secretary for Nyamira is the one who took him to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. He was forced also to be referred to Kenyatta National Hospital. So they are saying this is our budget. We cannot treat people from outside our county, and it's a fact. If you
saw Governor Kabogo complaining that he's treating so many people in Kiambu
because of money.
Yes. You've seen that, right? And of course it's a challenge to them. That's the truth, because if you have a good facility that is a county facility, everyone comes there. But you see, these are very poor people, and healthcare, there is no profit in it. That is the point that the governors have never understood. Yeah.
I was not even arguing about treatment. I'm talking about the doctors.
Yes.
You're a qualified doctor.
By the way,
maybe an expert in something, a consultant in a public hospital. You are thrown out. They bring their brother who is not qualified. Yeah. What logic is there?
Many doctors and many nurses. I think we are the ones who can solve this tribalism problem, because many people, personally, I worked somewhere in Nyeri, and I also worked in Kijabe, and that's not where I come from. And there are doctors who come from Central who are working in Siaya. So and because we just want to give the service, and that has happened since independence. We don't understand why now with the counties, you know, your tribe begins to now start to matter, and it's very bad, because you find now that the people of Siaya do not now have a gynecologist.
There's no specialist.
There's no specialist.
There's nothing.
Lamu, there's zero doctors. You find places like Narok where they want to employ locals, but they don't have Maasai doctors to employ. The same with Kajiado. So they keep being sent for doctors. They keep rejecting those doctors. Places like Nyandarua, like Kipia, they are sent for a specialist pediatrician. They reject that doctor, yet they have none. Okay, you find Marsabit, they don't have.
Let me ask you this: if this is not madness, what is madness?
Thank you for saying that.
It doesn't.
It's actually more than madness.
Let me tell you, this is what I'm calling political impunity and political merchandise. They have actually made everything political. The reason why is they don't want to treat people from their areas, that you don't have a voting power. You will not vote for them. Probably you'll go back to your place and vote from there. Look at
a patient as a patient.
Yes, 2007, 2008 political post-election violence. You did not hear any facility where a health worker told a patient, I cannot treat you because you are a Kikuyu, I cannot treat you because you are a Luya, I cannot treat you because you are Luo. I was working in Kenyatta National Hospital at that time, and we treated all patients equally, because that is what we are trained. That's where the issue calling comes in. Calling, now we leave the issue of our tribe and our personal interest.
So now when you are telling me some doctor refused to treat some accident victim in some hospital,
it is not doctors, the administration. Remove these people. This patient is not from this county.
Where
you don't
have
have
to
resources.
Report before you are seen by the doctor or the nurse.
If the person who is supposed to give you a card to be seen by the doctor has refused, because the instruction from the county government is to not admit or treat patients who are not from this county. And even if I were governor, the truth is, I will not, like if I'm a governor of Nakuru, for example, where we have a lot of accidents from Salga. When you go to Nakuru Provincial General Hospital, you find patients who are there, most cases are not from Nakuru County. If you remember Narok, when we had a very major accident, and they are straining the resources of Narok County. And Narok County has a budget based on its population. I am given money as a governor depending on my population and projected medical conditions that I face in my county as per my people. Now, when you bring other people who are not in my budget, what do you expect me to do? Joho has said in Mombasa, he will now be requiring those who are not coming from Mombasa County, if you don't have a voter's card, he was short of saying an ID, because if he said an ID, it will be tribal. But he was very clever. He said, if you don't have a voter's card for Mombasa, you will not be treated here. If you are treated here, you pay like private hospital. I agree with him, because his budget is for his people. It's not for other people.
To cut this, what we are talking about is that there's a mess in healthcare system, and we need to be sober right now, because Kenyans are suffering. It doesn't matter how much we come and make noise and put this point here. The patients are tired of devolution. Those patients that you showed that are calling for help, those patients need help. And I don't know how to make this point as clear enough for every single leader in this country to understand it. The Constitution never treats any patient. You can't put a Constitution at a sick patient. What you will need to treat a patient is facility. You will need a nurse, you will need a doctor, you will need that laboratory technician, you will need a nutritionist, you will need all these healthcare workers. And that is what we need to solve. Right now, there's a lot of things going on with painting of hospitals and changing their names to county referral hospital. He will explain for us where that came from.
No, we have run out of time.
But to cut the story short, number one, you ran the issues there. The salaries, they are so meager. We need salaries to be increased. They have a CBA, we have a CBA. Both of them are in court right now. There are schemes of services that we need to be revised and implemented by the government, but more importantly, to solve all of this problem of who is being discriminated in Mandera, how CIR people can get a specialist, we need a health services commission, and we need to have a sober discussion. For us, we are not interested in the politics. We are simply interested in stating the truth.
Viewers and Kenyans, this is like kind of a quagmire kind of we are in the public health sector. Who will bail the cat?